y'all, including the annual lamb slaughter. You already know. Then it's the Hebrew Academy trial. Oh boy. Next we got the children's party. Then you know we got Gen.Yahanna's scripture breakdown class and the Hebrew Academy graduation. The Lord's 56th annual Passover. Pay your Passover fee. It's only $200 to get all these exclusive events. Real black culture. The general's in attendance and the stage is set. It's going down. April the 12th in Atlanta, Georgia. This event is only for the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indigenous people. We got a week full of events from April the 9th and the 13th. But remember, you got to pay that Passover fee. It's only $200 to get every event exclusively. Here's the itinerary for the Lord's 56th annual Passover. April the 9th is the annual lamb slaughter. April the 10th is the kids' party. At 7 p.m. later that night, Gen.Yahanna's scripture breakdown class. April the 11th, the Hebrew Academy graduation. Later that night at 8 p.m. is the all-black party. April the 12th is the Lord's 56th annual Passover. April the 13th is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. $200, 17 years or older, pay your Passover fee. See you in Atlanta, Israel. Shalom.
Welcome to Atlanta. Practice Officer 5000, Jeremiah, the camp leader of Atlanta. Passover 2025, starting April the 9th, we got the lamb slaughter. April the 10th, we got Gen.Yahanna's class. April the 11th, we got the black party that's going to have the Hebrew graduation. April the 12th, in Atlanta, Georgia, the 56th annual Passover, the only Passover under Commander Gen.Yahanna.
Our great and holy King has honored us for turning our lives from the darkness to the light, man. And no greater gift you can receive than to wake up to the truth and then commit your life to saving your brothers, man. Looking in their eyes and seeing their faces and seeing what they've suffered and what they've gone through and seeing the end of it, man. It is a guaranteed seat in the kingdom of heaven, man. So in the name of our King Yahushua, we dedicate us another Passover of brothers and sisters' lives being saved.
April the 13th, we got the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Shalom.
Friday. You already know it's April the 11th in Atlanta, Georgia, at the infamous Classic Atrium. I.S.U.P.K presents the All-Black Party with live performances by King Ty,
Used to have that white bitch popping on the night.
144, Nakawa,
Snitching in the act like this. That's why we unaffiliated.
Shaw,
If for more, right, that's good.
Natazar,
We in the game, coach. Fuck you talking, hey?
special guest from China Monet, and Georgia's own Pastor Troy. 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. You already know I.S.U.P.K.com. Shalom.
Shalom. This year for the 56th annual Passover, Commanding Gen.Yahanna will be offering babysitting services for free for anyone that pays their $200 Passover fee. For paid babysitting and registration for babysitting, please contact Officer Yardan at 773-970-4343. Shalom.
Let nobody sell you crack. You know why? Because I never saw you before. But you a black man like me. That's right. And it's worth something.
This is Black Watch with Commanding General Yahanna, the only man to lead blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans.
God made man on this earth. The white man he made man. God made man. God wants man to obey him.
Bringing you real news.
You don't need a black man in the White House. You need a black man in every black house.
For many years, there's a lot of black people who didn't realize how deep the racism of white America was.
You ain't gonna do nothing unless you decide where you gonna stand at with the Most High.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Righteous solutions to issues plaguing our nation.
Boy, you better wake up and see the power that is within blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians.
Join us every Monday from 9 to 11 p.m. Black Watch. Let the show begin.
Yeah. What's going on with Israel? I.S.U.P.K.com is the website. You know how we do. I'm Commander Gen.Yahanna. We getting it in. Took us a little delay, but we back in the game. You understand? On our Saturday night thing, we got some guests in the house coming with some power. You know what I mean? The leader. Well, I think they don't refer to him any longer as the leader of the Proud Boys. I'm assuming that's for security of some sort. But we got Enrique Tarrio, okay, of the Proud Boys in the building, fresh off of doing time like a black man. Congratulations, warrior. You know what I'm saying? Getting out of prison, getting home. Man. Can you get some sound on him?
Thank you. You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Well,
thank you, Commander. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. I know that was an ordeal. You know what I'm saying?
It was. It wasn't my first rodeo, but yeah, it was an ordeal.
You know, man. Especially, I'm sure it was tough on the family. You know what I'm saying?
It was. It's tougher on the families than it is. It is on us.
Yeah. How about that? So, for those that may not know, especially on our side, give me a brief intro to who the Proud Boys are, what you stand for, and you know how you represent in the things that you do.
Well, just to tell you a little bit about the Proud Boys, we were started as a joke in 2016 to try to get a 25-year-old virgin laid on a podcast similar to this, and it kind of grew teeth, and it's not a joke anymore. But our basic principles are make better men. How do you make better men? You make better brothers, you make better fathers, better neighbors. We do believe in putting the family first, even before the club itself. We don't care what religion, what race, what cultural background you are. If you believe the West is the best, Western civilization, then you're welcome to be part of our group. Also, it's 2025, and I have to say this, but you have to be born a man.
Understood. Let me ask you this: when you say if you believe the West is the best,
yes,
give me a little more insight to that, because a lot of people say it's hard to nail down what the Proud Boys actually stand for. Now, and one of my questions was, besides that, do the Proud Boys consider themselves sort of constitutional conservatives, or that doesn't matter?
So we're not really a political group more than we're a cultural group. So politically, we do lean, most members do lean right. But again, that doesn't come first. Because of our values, which our tenets include some of those constitutional values. Yes, most of us are constitutional conservatives, but we lean a little bit more into the libertarian space, where we just want to be left alone. And something that we always say is that there's two types of people in the world. There are those that want to be left alone and those that don't want to leave others alone. But other tenets of ours include glorifying the entrepreneur, being a business owner. We believe that if you're focused on government, right, as like a way to oppress the people, it actually starts at home, and it starts with your boss, because your boss has actually more control over you than the president of the United States, because your boss tells you what time you got to wake up, what time you could leave, what time you could see your kids, what time you could pick up your kids, the time that you spend with your family. So when guys come in, I personally try to get the guys to start their own business. But there are other tenets like venerate the housewife, which we believe is under attack. But go ahead.
Real quick, so I can understand. So the majority of you are constitutional conservatives.
Majority,
but it's not a bedrock tenet of your organization.
No.
But oppression and those that would oppress you, like your boss and others, that is a tenet of your organization. Like you believe in eliminating the oppression of others that are, that of those that would oppress you, including corporations, I'm assuming, including unjust powers over you from various governments, city, state, federal, yada yada, military as well, I'm assuming.
That is correct.
Those types of tenets.
Yeah, another one of our tenets is shrink the government as much as possible. Less government, less interference, less oppression. And when it comes to corporations, because you mentioned corporations, I don't technically have a problem with corporations. I do have a problem with corporations when they get kickbacks from the government, or the government uses the corporation as a means to subvert the Constitution, right? We saw this a lot in the years of starting in 2016. I guess you saw it more in 2016 and moving forward, where the government can't, I guess, I'm going to say this in quotes, the government can't violate our free speech rights, so they use the pressure that they have on these corporations, like the social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and other corporations, to kind of quell our voices. And if I disagree with somebody, or I dislike, I'm Cuban, so I hate communism, but I don't, the person sitting across the street with the Che Guevara flag, as distasteful as I find it, I do see it as their free speech and their rights, and it shouldn't be violated.
So I take it based on that. Sorry to cut you off, but I take it based on that you also then have to be fully against things like Nazism, things like white supremacy, things like that. Am I wrong? Or
no, you're totally right. Any ism, whether it's Nazism, fascism, communism, any form of high authority or oppressive authority, we are against.
Okay.
That I could say for the entire organization, that's pretty much across the board.
Okay. Now, before I want to talk to you a little bit about your arrest and all that, but I also want to ask you just a little bit about the founding. First of all, I saw an interview with you that said you did not want to be, spoken as the leader. You didn't want that term used anymore.
Yeah, I'm not. And another thing is, we back in 2021, we told each other that we wouldn't be talking about how we're structured, how the structure of the organization is. Just for, like you said in the beginning, it's for safety purposes. We saw what happened with Gavin McInnes back in 2018, and we also saw it going into the events at the Capitol on January 6th, where obviously I wasn't there. I was still arrested and sentenced to 2 years.
But how did that identifying you as the leader create that situation with Gavin and with the Capitol? How did you were you just targeted based on their belief that your members were there, or
yeah, I think it's more of a marketing thing for the Department of Justice. They needed a head on a pike, and at the moment they were trying to find the main head, which was Donald Trump, and they were attempting to get to them. So I think I was one of the louder voices during January 6th that my group was there. And they needed to showboat me around and be like, look what happens when you speak against. Because I celebrated the events of January 6th on that day. If that's a crime, then I'm guilty. But that isn't a crime and a constitutional America that I don't believe exists at the moment.
Why did you celebrate it? Did you celebrate? Tell me why you celebrated that.
I think somebody asked me this, if I can describe the events at the Capitol in one word, and I the word I thought of, the first word that popped into my head was accountability, right?
Accountability,
right? I believe, and a lot of people say, oh, it was Trump that said that the election was stolen, and I believe that the stolen election was the straw that broke the camel's back. But for a very long time, beginning in 2016, with Hillary Clinton calling us a basket of deplorables, we were kicked off of social media, which is the new town square. I could sit in a corner and hold a sign for hours on end. It won't be as effective as just a social media post. So they knew that that was dangerous. They quelled our voices. Then they definanced us. They took us off credit card processors, PayPal, Cash App, like all this stuff that regular people use. They took that off, and with me, they debanked me. They took me off they closed my bank account completely. I couldn't go to the major banks like Chase, Bank of America. Then we had the COVID lockdowns, right? Which were oppressive. And then we had maybe a point that we might disagree with. We had those riots in 2020, right? The caused by George Floyd, right? The events that happened with George Floyd. And then we saw that law enforcement and the prosecutors didn't do much in that sense. And then when it comes to the Capitol, they got every single person that walked into the Capitol. And I think if Donald Trump wouldn't have won the 2024 election, I think they would have targeted every single person that stepped foot in DC that was a Trump supporter. And as far as I know, I think they would have gone beyond that, because obviously I wasn't there and I got it. So I think that stopped it. But now, to go back on my original, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, let me let you finish, please.
To go back on my original point, I think that what ended up happening is, like, people were angry. People were angry with all of that. And at some point, whether people believe that Trump supporters were wrong or right about what happened at the Capitol, they were angry. I was angry. So
let me get clear, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Just so I can be clear, the audience can be clear as well. Are you saying that because of injustices,
yes,
things that you thought were unjust, like the non-prosecutions that took place under the George, based on the George Floyd death, and I'm assuming the fires and the riots and so forth and so on.
Yes.
You felt like those things were unjust. So,
well, no, I'm not saying that they're unjust. It's more of an equality thing, right? Okay. And I think that at that time, and we're not talking about, I guess we're not talking about equality across the board. We're talking about equality when it comes to protests, right? Okay. Where we didn't see those prosecutions. I'm not advocating in no way to say, hey, those people should be put in chains, right? I'm saying that we didn't see that equality, that same thing across the board. If we're all going to be equal when it comes to protesting, I'm being specific and I'm putting it in a box.
Right.
We didn't see that from the Biden administration.
Right. But now, okay, in all fairness, right?
Yes.
We know we don't live in a box.
I know. I know. That's why I try to put that in a compartment.
Right. That's why you put it in the box. But now let me step outside the box.
Yes.
And look at the world as a Proud Boy walking down the street or living his everyday life. Do the Proud Boys see an injustice towards Blacks and Latinos that goes on every day in America? And do they feel as passionate about that injustice as they did during January 6th? Because you know where I'm going with it.
Yes, I definitely do.
It sounds a little.
I understand.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I personally don't like focusing on one race, right? But I will tell you, yes, there is major injustices when it comes to policing, militarizing some of these police departments. Some of these sentences are crazy, right? And there is a large population of African Americans and Latinos in the federal system. I will say that because obviously I experienced it. I saw it. Now, go ahead.
You saw it first.
I did see it, and again, this isn't my first rodeo. As a matter of fact, criminal justice reform has been, at least for me personally, has been something that I've been passionate about for a long time because I have been in the system. You know, I will say some of those times that maybe I deserved it, right? But the system itself isn't meant to rehabilitate. It's not meant, like, calling it corrections is a lie. They're not correcting anything. They're just putting people in a box for decades at a time for crimes that are nonviolent, crimes that have no victims in many cases. The bread and butter for at least the federal system is this 922G, right? Which most, I'd say, the 922G, which is felon possession of a firearm, which I think is unconstitutional to begin with, and I think the Supreme Court's going to look at that on this session. But I do see injustices happen, and I don't like focusing on one race, but I will tell you by the numbers, by what I see, is that these sentences are way too high. The arrests and the conviction rates are way too high. The rules for going to trial for the feds.
Are they for a specific demographic? Like, let's be honest, you saw the full deal firsthand, and you know what I advocate for. So
I know.
Did I lose you?
No, I hear you. You cut out a second, but I heard what you said.
So,
I will tell you that there is a big population of the prison system that are Blacks and Latinos. I will tell you that. Yes, I did see that. I cannot by no means can I say that they're not.
Right, and you were born in America. You're yes. A native Floridian, as they say. Yeah. You've been all across this country. Of course, I want to nail you to the board on whether or not this is just another example of, can you hold off on that one?
Yeah.
No, huh? You good? Yeah, because I think you freeze. Oh, it was just up here. I'm thinking you freezing up on both. Okay. So just from your view, your life, your experience, as well as the latest experience, are we living in a country, or have we been living in a country where it's been unfair treatment of the ex-slaves of the United States of America? Can you, as a Proud Boy, say that is true?
I can say that there's major injustices that happen in this country, and that's pretty much that's the truth. And I think the system is oppressive. I think the system's too big. I think the system needs to shrink. I saw a clip from the earlier show, and I don't think you're a big fan of Elon Musk. I am.
I understand. I don't know the man. Mm-hmm. I've never met him. I only know what comes out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I only know what I saw, at, the rally where he simply saluted the Nazi salute that he attempted to say was not a Nazi salute. And anybody who's been who has studied Nazism and the Nazi Party and, enjoyed watching the old tapes and the things that were done clearly knows that is a clearly Nazi salute. We know from his policies. I don't even want to say his. I can say it, I believe it's his policy. He's not the one implementing it. That his actions have been extremely detrimental to blacks and Latinos, especially in Washington D.C. And we could definitely get into that. I mean, because of course it also ties to, you know, the very man that pardoned you from a 22-year prison sentence. You know what I mean? You know, Donald Trump. And so it's definitely something we should talk about. And it's not with Hebrew Israelites, it's not personal. It's not we don't have a personal hatred of white people, but we do have a personal hatred of those that would oppress us, especially white supremacists and Nazis and the like. So in that respect, yeah, Elon Musk is a problem.
So just, Commander, playing devil's advocate here. Do you agree with anything that he's doing with the Department of Government Efficiency and shrinking the government in any way? When we talk about like the IRS, when we're talking about the Department of Education, which I don't think should exist, period. But do you at least with that portion, putting it back in a box, do you disagree with that portion?
Okay, I don't disagree. I think it's an absolute great idea to reduce the government. That's conservatives have always had that idea. Conservatives have always tried to do that. It's always been a struggle in Congress and in the Senate to accomplish that. However, what Elon Musk is doing, I don't believe for a moment is shrinking the government. What I believe that we are watching unfold before our eyes, and we won't understand it unless you've studied that portion of history, is we are watching the transformation of a democracy into the beginnings of a fascist Nazi empire. And I believe that Elon Musk is is probably the tip of the sword. The cuts, I don't believe, are doing anything to actually shrink the government. The cuts are being done in the most racist way and in the most political way to destroy so much of the infrastructure of the Democrats. You know, here's a point. Let me just make one quick point, if I could.
Go ahead.
Like, what would be the point of having a Department of Justice wipe out all the records that they have built over so many decades of the crimes being done by police officers, which we all know, any American that's grown up in this empire knows that those Department of Justice records of crimes of police officers are mainly based on the crimes that were done to blacks and Latinos, rapes, murders, robberies, drug dealing operations, so many heinous crimes. And they call, like, how does that help shrink government?
Commander, so we've been on, I think this is our third time that we've spoken. Just again to kind of, I guess, go on a back and forth on this, because I do want to talk about this. So when you said that you're seeing the democracy turn into like this fascism right before your eyes, I think that you've said to me before that you believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you believe that the government instituted by the United States has always been oppressive.
Sure.
Do you believe it? In your belief, do you believe it started as a democracy, and at some point was that democracy that you speak of?
No. Okay. It started as a republic.
Yes.
Okay. And
that's what I believe. Yes.
Right. Had it stayed a republic and held true to its tenets, even to the fact that birthright citizenship was eventually added to the Constitution to protect blacks from going into slavery. Like, what was so great, and I don't endorse the United States government, but what was so good about that constitutional republic was that they stuck to their own rules, and they made rules that they believed from its inception, starting from the Constitution itself on forward, that they made these rules to be as fair and just as they possibly can. And I believe that they attempted to do that. They attempted to do it, especially since they got it was born out of an already oppressive government, the Queen of England, Queen of England. So I believe that they were attempting to do something good, and probably on the face of this earth, in terms of what we consider heathens, those outside of the 12 lost tribes of Israel, I believe that they have done probably one of the best jobs at attempting to establish that. Here's where the problem comes in.
You sound very pro-America right now, Commander.
I do, but you got to let me tell you the next line. Here's the problem. The white man is the devil the Bible speaks of. So you can give him the most proper government, the most fair and equitable government. You can give him a government that is absolutely the best for people on earth. The problem with him is he will not stay at home. He will not allow that government to be just. He will corrupt that government. It will be his, like, corrupting people and governments and corporations for their own financial benefit is something they were doing even before slavery. You know what I mean? Part of why they ended up having to write this government, because they were already subverting the government of England by being Freemasons, which was illegal at the time. And they were already operating underneath England with their own undermining programs, which led to, again, probably one of the best ideas of a government you could find. But then, of course, as usual, they went and undermined it. And let me just say, for blacks and Latinos, and I'll pass it back to you real quick. For blacks and Latinos, from 1865 from the emancipation of proclamation to today, should have been a republic that held to those tenets. Like, you gave the freedom, you saw politically it was bad, you saw that it was socially bad, so you gave the slaves the freedom they needed. You saw the republic splitting in half based on slavery and the economics in the South over the economics in the North. So you passed laws, once again, bringing back that equity. The problem is, right after you passed those laws, you went on to just be as absolutely murderous and bloodthirsty as they possibly could. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
No, go ahead. So I don't want to be, I guess, the interviewer here, but I believe what you're saying when you say white, but my problem is with white liberals. I think ideology trumps. I've always been somebody that doesn't care for one's skin color or pushes one way or pushes the other one. But for me, the oppression comes in the ideology. And I think the acceleration that we saw with Biden in 2020 with a stolen election, I do believe that election stolen, and that acceleration that we saw a future that if we would have gotten a President Kamala Harris, it would have accelerated even worse. I'm pretty sure for the three hours and change that we've spoken, I'm pretty sure you're not a big fan of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden just on policy wise. But I do, in my opinion, I did see a giant acceleration in that oppression through the Biden administration, and I didn't see it during the Trump administration, and I don't see it now. I actually see.
Telling me you don't see it now?
No, I don't see it at all now. I see the complete opposite now. With this new, what we're seeing with 2024 Trump is I think God had a plan, and I think we needed Biden to steal that election in 2020 in order to see what the future would hold. And so we could see the Trump that we're seeing now in 2024.
Come on, man. You telling me with Latinos being taken to Guantanamo Bay on military planes, chained up like terrorists, with the promising of emptying out 1 million prisoners and shipping them out of the country.
We were the closest that we've ever been to World War III with Joe Biden.
Listen, I'm not fighting for Joe Biden or Democrat.
I know you're not.
I completely agree with you when you say we could have been in World War III. Listen, both of them are part of this so-called Constitution Republican. One side is run by Wall Street, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The other side is run by rich, private, mostly conservative, rich white men that have rich corporations. My point is, both sides are run by the rich because the republic itself has already been sacked by these rich sides. And so I totally agree with you that the Democratic side is bad as well. But you cannot tell me, for us, for you and me with your Latino skin and my brown skin, you're not going to tell me that it is any better on this side of the fence when he just wiped out the history of police officers. Let me ask you this. The Proud Boys believe in gun ownership, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And I know you do too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, man. The brothers told me recently I can't put my guns on the wall when I'm on tape. So I ain't doing it. But a little vanity in me makes me want to, show my stuff. But anyway, here's my point.
Go ahead.
Okay, you believe in that. Donald Trump is now saying that police officers should confiscate weapons and then let it go to court afterward. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that, and I'm gonna be 100% sincere with you when it comes to something that's not like major policies that's happened in the course of the past 2 months.
Okay.
And it's actually been super refreshing. I have disconnected almost completely from the news machine. And only I'll probably capture like major stories. So maybe the next time I come on, we could talk about him confiscating guns at some point. I would tell you on its face, I wouldn't agree with that, but I don't.
Go ahead.
But regardless of the fact, I'll tell you where I agree with you again. I think both parties are ran by corporations and billionaires and something close to the oligarchy, right? But I think now here's where I disagree with you. I think the president is different. I think the president has a different agenda than most of these Republicans that have been around. It's not politics as usual. It's not business as usual. Even if you're not a fan of Donald Trump policies and you are for small government, I don't think too many people would disagree with me with saying Donald Trump has been a stick of dynamite into a system that needed a reset. I'm afraid of what's going to come after he leaves, right? What kind of person is going to sit on that seat? No, he's leaving. He's got his 4 years. He's done.
Enrico, I wish I could be as naive in heart as you are. I don't know how you became the head of such a powerful military in the streets fighting organization, because I see you got a good heart. I see a rich man. He can work you. He can work you, Enrico. He can see you as.
Well, I do want to clarify one thing. So the things that you see on the streets, we do provide security a lot for these events and stuff like that. And my guys just naturally, we're not a militant organization.
Okay.
I guess it kind of comes natural, and it starts at our meets, right? We meet once a month. The only requisite when you become a member is that you go out with the boys and drink beer. 90% of my members have never been to a rally. The most political thing they've ever done in their life is probably go check a box inside a polling station. Other than that, what people usually see about the Proud Boys is the videos of us fighting back.
The propaganda.
And it's not really by us, because we're not pushing that out. It's really the media that portrays us that way. And I think they always portray us wrong. Specifically, I could talk when I talk about that. Let me talk about myself for a second. It's hard to put me in a box because I do have these very complex and complicated views on things. And some of them are very simple and some of them are very, like I said, complex. But I don't fit in a Republican box. I don't fit in a right-wing box. I never actually fit in. When I was in prison, it was hard to jump in a certain car, right? Because the blacks wouldn't take me, right? The whites wouldn't take me. the Latinos, which are mostly Mexican nationals that are there for reentry, and that I disagree with. I think we should deport automatically. I don't think that we should put somebody in a concrete box for 4 or 5 years. One, financially, it's morally wrong. Two, it's financially stupid that you got to feed somebody for 5 or 6 years for reentry into the United States. They should be deported immediately.
Unless you're saving them for future slaves to work in the fields for 50 cents a day.
That's another thing I have a problem with when Democrats, and this is my liberal counterparts here, when they're advocating for bringing in more people, what they're really advocating for is cheap labor. And that in itself is wrong. And I don't think that a lot of, even conservatives, I don't think that, I don't want to say that they're voicing their concerns properly, but there's a way that we can talk about this where it's logical and it's respectful of people. Like, if you get caught coming over the border, you should be put on a bus and deported immediately. And I think that we should close our borders, right? Fix our issues internally, because obviously me and you have issues with things that are happening within the country. But I forgot where I was going with this, but regardless, I don't fit in a box. So when I'm in prison, it's hard to jump in a car because, my last car that I had to jump into was a Caribbean car, and that consisted of Cubans, Dominicans, and Venezuelans. So it's kind of hard when somebody can't put their finger on you and they write about you without even asking what your feelings are towards things. And I understand why people don't like the Proud Boys sometimes. We're rough around the edges. We cuss like sailors.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. The white members of the Proud Boys that were locked up, right?
Yes.
Was it difficult for them to jump in a car, or did they only have to be white?
Well, in prison, I guess the two biggest cars are the black car and the white car. So obviously those are pretty easy to get into.
So they were able to get into the white car regardless of their political stance and affiliations, as long as they're white.
Well, prison doesn't play on your political views, right or left. It's skin color. It's crazy, the segregation that goes on in there.
And that's how they
Go ahead.
And that's how they gain power. And let's not look at that like it's so insane, because the white car has been working out here as well. The white car has been doing amazingly great, while the black car and every other car has done horribly bad. And so my question again comes back to the same thing.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but what do you mean they're doing good? The white car and the black car. When I'm talking about people that are in prison that maybe get out or whatever.
I'm taking it out of prison. I'm saying the white car and the black car and the Latino car still exist today outside of the prison, not just in the prison. And the white car, remember earlier you told me you don't really focus on the individual policies, but you have your own policies as Proud Boys. Then some do lean towards conservatives. What I'm saying is all that is nice, but when it comes down to the brass tacks, the white car is still the biggest car and doing the best in this, for lack of a better term, open air prison we call America.
Yeah, I could say that the white car is obviously bigger because the population in America of white is obviously as big as it is.
And why is that population bigger? Why is that population bigger?
Because are you asking me why the white population is bigger?
I'm saying rhetorically that car is bigger because what it's done to the other cars outside of prison. That's what made that car bigger. What you're witnessing right now with Donald Trump's deportation policies, and I'm not here or there with the policies. As you know, Hebrew Israelites are concerned with the well-being of our 12 tribes. It's not personal. There are black Latino criminals. There are all kinds that are innocent, that are criminals. My point is this, that regardless of what a Latino may be in his personal life, if he doesn't have a car strong enough and big enough to stop the other cars, as you know now that you've done a little time, you know if today or tomorrow that Latino car is not strong enough, it's a great possibility that they could be severely harmed by the other cars. What I'm saying is this: what Donald Trump, the reason why I'm saying Donald Trump's policies is so horrible, as bad as the Democrats just do it in a nicer way. The Democrats will send us to the abortion clinics and kill us all. Donald Trump will deport us and brutalize us in the streets with white supremacist cops. It's the same thing. What I'm saying is that two things I'm saying. One, that the Latino car has to be strong enough to protect itself. And second, Enrique, it seems like rich men have been able to implement their policies on you that do not really affect your people, but affect the country as a whole, while the country affects your people in a negative way.
Commander, but wouldn't the car be stronger if it wasn't color coded and we all work together to a common goal? Because and the reason why I asked that is like you said your focus, the Hebrew Israelites' focus is on your tribe, the 12 tribes of Israel, as you believe.
Like our Latinos are precious to us. Go ahead.
My tribe, and something that changed, I will tell you something that changed in me, and to hit on that point specifically, something that changed in me is my list of priorities, right? My list of priorities used to be like God, family, country, right? Those were the top three for me. After the government did what they did to me and did to my brothers, country was knocked off of that list, and it goes God, family, tribe, right?
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
My tribe is my people. My tribe is this movement, right? My tribe is like my brotherhood, right? My tribe is this MAGA movement. My tribe is this ideology, and I protect that with everything, because when I was in there, there was a lot of people championing that I didn't get enough years, that I should be put there for even longer, that they should have thrown away the key. And as one woman in the jury said, that we should be buried under the jail. So my tribe, and in no way, shape, or form am I saying like my tribe's better than your tribe. My tribe has no color. My tribe is the ideology. It's not a border, right? It's the people that supported us, right? It's the people that stood behind us when everything else, when the entire pressure of the United States government was put, I mean, every resource available. This was the biggest investigation in Department of Justice history. It has the most discovery of any case ever by far. It was the longest trial, continuous trial in DC history.
But let me just say this.
Go ahead.
Can't you see clear from what took place? It was huge. Make no mistake. I mean, they were trying to put you and your people under the jail. And I want to go back eventually to what actually they tried to convict you of and what you was charged. But here's my question. Don't you see that rich men who set policies in this empire was able to use you and your organization based on the fact that you had no so-called racial tribe? Like, because your tribe was open for everyone, didn't that also open the door? Because let's face it, without signing up for it, your organization became, foot soldiers for the Trump administration. Like that rally that your members went to jail for was, a rally by yet another rich man backed by other rich men, you understand, to put pressure on yet another set of rich men for things that rich men decided. Like, that wasn't a fight for your tribe. Your tribe didn't benefit at all from that and would not have benefited from it.
Well, I disagree in the fact that we weren't soldiers for Trump.
You disagree with that? You don't?
I disagree completely with it, because we weren't. We're not soldiers for anybody but ourselves.
I totally get it.
But we do have a common belief.
Listen, I totally get it. But were you used at the Capitol? Like, your beliefs don't say
we were used by liberals for political purposes, for fundraising, and to send a message. And this includes, here's where I go with it's not about race, because you had people like Hakeem Jeffries, you had people like Miss Crockett from Texas championing. You had members, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They were people that were advocating to put us in chains. They were people that were advocating to put us under that jail, that prison. My tribe was with me the entire, before this, during it, and after.
Listen, I'm not.
I know you're not. I know you're not knocking it. I'm just saying, like, my oppressors, they were of all shades of colors.
But have they been used by those that are rich and in power? You understand? And then let me add this to you. Anybody that studied the Nazis know, when Adolf Hitler was rising to power, when he was moving his way towards chancellor, he had to organize grassroots groups. He organized grassroots groups who in normal terms were not Nazis, and were not even, the Nazi Party hadn't even been fully established yet, and they were not necessarily Nazis or even racist. But those organizations, he used those organizations and moved them in such a way with all types of things to basically become foot soldiers, even though they were not. He used them to become foot soldiers for movement, which eventually turned into what we know today as Nazi Germany. And don't you see that the Proud Boys and yourself being a Cuban American, can't you see that you all have been sucked up into, based on, we all have, listen, I got conservative beliefs too. I got like the Second Amendment.
I know you do. I know you do.
We believe in that. Like, you know what I mean? I totally agree with the idea of men being men and women being women. I'm not down with any of that LGBT, because biblically is wrong. So my point is, we all have views that somewhat align with either the Democrat or Republican Party. But in this incident, can't you see that because you don't have the bond of your race as well? And I'm not knocking where you're going where you're going anyway. Yeah. I'm just making a point. Doesn't that say we are being used by those who have some of our ideas, but also have a set of other ideas and a broader agenda that may totally be against us, like in the case of Donald Trump? And I want to read it when I'm gonna let you respond, but then I want to read a policy that came out by Donald Trump, and I want you to tell me, one, I know you're not going to agree with it, and then if you don't agree with it, can't you at least see that you were used to get him to that point? Let me let you speak. Go ahead.
So here's my issue. Like, obviously, we got to look back at history to see, to learn from examples, right?
Right.
But sometimes when we overread our history, and I think a lot of people just overread, because we always go back to Hitler, right? We always go back to Nazi Germany and what happened there.
I didn't until recently.
No, I know. But what happened to me was the reverse, right? We had an oppressive government that did use us, right? And they used us in reverse. They didn't use us as foot soldiers. They used us as pawns. They used us as propaganda. They used us. The Trump administration does not control the Proud Boys. Trump can say, I'll jump off the bridge, and I'll tell him to go screw himself. And he's never asked me to jump off a bridge. The Biden administration used us nonstop as he came out, and his first campaign video was about Charlottesville and taking out these hate groups. And I know which way that rabbit hole goes when somebody says that. Now, when it comes to the president, I think I'm sorry, there's something going off over here. When it comes to the president, I and going back into history and comparing that to what happened in Germany, that in itself, like, you're not overusing it, because I know what example you're trying to set, but a lot of people use that as to show, what could happen. I think what happened in America between 2020 and 2024 is something new. We know about those things in history, and they have names. We have the names for those things, like communism, Nazism. It is a new type of oppression that 1,000 years from now, if the left continues to grow, it'll have a new name. We'll be talking about whatever president or whatever ism happens at that point. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because
let me just say this, Enrique. I agree with you in everything you're saying about the Democrats. Israelites don't vote. We certainly don't align ourselves with a political party that advocates our women having abortions and killing our baby. So when you speak on these things, just as a man, I totally recognize and agree with you. But what I don't understand is why you would align yourself with the possibilities and the things that are actually going on right now from the right as well. I don't understand why the Proud Boys have allowed themselves to become used again by the other side in an attempt to fight this side. Wait a minute, bear with me a second. Donald Trump ran on the idea that Latinos were rapists. He ran on it. It's exactly what Adolf Hitler did. And to say he did not is to be, come on, brother. You got to be able to see the
in
man.
2016, like the main motivating policy was to build a wall, right? Because immigration, I think, that's
what he said
is a big problem.
But he also said that one of the reasons was that they were, a horrible bunch of people. Can you honestly say
he's clarified that multiple times, where he says not all of them, but they are letting people in, and we're seeing it we're also seeing it with a lot of Venezuelans now too.
If the president of the United States says they're rapists, you understand, they're criminals, and some of them are good people. Come on, let me tell you something.
Is that not like accurate in a way, regardless of how he does?
Absolutely not accurate. First of all,
some of maybe most of them are good people, but there were rapists, and they are rapists jumping over the border. So
is that really true? Are Latinos walking around raping across this country?
But look, how did Castro try to punish the United States? He opened the gates to the Maria boat lift.
Why didn't he say that? Why didn't he come out and say to stop the real racist? When you go back and look at the FBI statistics, the highest ranking of rapists, demographic of rapists, are white men. That's the highest demographic. Why did it have to become a political?
But can't we just say that rape is just bad, no matter where it comes from? Not
you killing me, because I would assume for a group like the Proud Boys, we
can't assume anything here,
who will fight Antifa, and Antifa be coming at y'all vicious. And I watch the tapes. Y'all stand your ground when it comes to them. Y'all go toe to toe. Y'all about bloods and bumps out there in them streets when it comes to your issues. But I can't understand how you could align yourself with, once again, with rich men and rich organizations who will use you. You can't tell me that Latinos are the rapists in America when not mine, their statistics say white men are the rapists. And for him to not be able to bring that out and to say it, and for you being a Proud Boy who I assume has a set of principles, stands on the principles, and will not budge off those principles for everybody. Like you said, he said jump off a bridge. You're not doing that. But why is it that you accept that misbehavior of what he does? Listen, the Hebrew Israelites, if other Hebrew Israelites misconstrue the policy of Hebrew Israelites, we are first to turn on them. We are first to set the record straight.
Welcome to the MAGA movement, then. Because that's exactly what we do with these Republicans that don't fall in line.
But you seem to not be willing to do that.
With the new right. I'm sorry?
You seem to not be willing to do that when it comes, like, tell me if I'm wrong. Have not Latinos, I'm talking regular, hardworking, straight up, legitimate Latinos, and you know the community better than me, across this country, have they not in the last 2 months lived a life of full out terror and fear?
I don't think so. I think we saw it on November 5th when, like, he grew his Latino
in the United States of America right now live in total fear. I'm not even talking about the illegal. I'm talking about the legal ones. You're telling me
the legal ones that can vote. They voted for him in bigger numbers now than they ever did in 2016 or 2020.
I'm not talking about their vote. Donald Trump didn't reveal the depth of his policy until he became. Nobody knew him. You understand?
He said it. He said he was going to deport.
He did say he was.
Yes.
But nobody knew that he would be as vicious as he is in a Nazi way until he got into office. And
I would say that they weren't listening to his words before he was coming in, because that's exactly what he campaigned on. I'm actually happy on that policy.
Let's say you're right. Let's say you're right. Then my question again, let's say you're right. For Latinos who are legitimate in the United States, have no criminal record, have no issue, like yourself, who have no issue, many born here, you're not going to tell me that there is an uncomfortability in the Latino community right now because of the way he and his stormtroopers have handled them. Many of them, now reports are coming out that many of them are being deported. And how can you align yourself?
Are U.S. citizens being deported?
That's the reports that's beginning to come out. We haven't confirmed them. We haven't confirmed them yet, but that is what we're hearing. But let's not even speculate.
We can't speculate on it. I mean, I haven't heard it. I haven't been in the news. I'm pretty sure that as a U.S. citizen, nobody's getting deported.
I just want you to give me the grasp on the entire community and whether or not I am correct. And I know I'm correct because, of course, we have a ton of Latinos in our organization.
I think you're partially correct. I think that there is a big fear from the Latino community. Well, hold on. Let me finish.
We might be on different terms, but I thought I had a hardcore.
I agree that liberal Latinos right now are probably living in constant fear. I think it's unjustified fear, and I think it's uneducated fear that we're seeing from them. Obviously, the world is very politicized.
Right.
And I think that those people that think that Donald Trump is out to get Latinos or whatever, I think that fear is unjustified because it's not true.
Enrico, killing me, baby.
I think he's going after every liberal policy and every over-regulating. When we over-regulate these industries, his slash on regulation.
What happened? Enrico? Oh.
I'm sorry. Did you hear me?
Yes, you wanted somebody on your side jumped in, I believe. Is that correct, Marah?
Oh, okay.
Marah? Is that correct? Yes, that was their side. Okay, it was your side. You got somebody jumped in on your side? I don't know if it was somebody on the side. Anyway, go ahead, please.
So I just think obviously there's maybe there is a little bit of reason to fear when it comes to some of these policies for some of these liberals, because they thought they had it in the bag. They thought that they can do whatever they wanted for 4 years. They thought that they could, I'll start with the personal stuff. They thought that they could lock us up for life. Okay. They thought that they can get away with the spending. They thought that they can get away with what's going on in Ukraine. They thought that they could get away with what's happening, all these weapon shipments that we're sending all over the world. And the buck stops with Donald Trump. So do they have a reason to fear? I think so.
Fight, Enrique. Why is that your fight?
Because it is
fight between two rich groups. Why is it your fight?
Well, because of my ideology. So if here I'm going to give you the perfect example. So my wife, right? I love her.
Okay.
What's the percentage that I agree with my wife on certain things? I'd say that number is close to like maybe 80%. And I think that's probably being high on it. I hope she's not watching this. She'll come in and she'll be like, what is the 20%? And she'll swing this knife at me. But so to think that I would agree with Donald Trump on close to more than the person that I love the most in my life is unreal. Do I agree with the president 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But right now, he has there's a different category. I'll talk about that now. But he does have 100% of my support. Now, I'm in a different category than your typical, I guess, Trump supporter.
Right.
I was going to spend the rest of my life in jail, in prison, for political purposes. Because if I legitimately did something wrong, I'll be like, all right, whatever, I deserved it. Because I'll tell you, back in 2004, I was I'm not going to cuss, but I was a little crap, change that. And I deserved getting arrested. I deserved what I got. I got like 3 years of probation or whatever. Right. But this time I really didn't do anything wrong. What they accused me of is probably like a horrible crime, sedition. And they wanted to put me away. So maybe there's a heavy bias there because my life was literally given back to me 2 months ago. So I won't tell you that if Trump tells me to jump off a bridge, I'll do it. But there is a higher level of loyalty coming from me and 1,600 other people that you typically don't see. So some of these questions, you maybe asking somebody with a little bit more, that has a little bit more objectivity and just a little bit more, because I do tell you, like, some of these policies I don't agree with. Some of the Trump's policies I don't agree with. And I've voiced that before.
Do you disagree with anybody, especially the wealthy and powerful in both political parties, using the Proud Boys as a tool to advance themselves politically?
The problem with that is that we're not used by certain groups, right? We're not used.
You almost faced 22 years in prison because of
Biden using me. So I'll agree with you. But the Trump administration using me as security
tried to give you 22 years in prison.
Well, they didn't try to. They gave it to me.
Yeah, they gave it to you. Donald Trump won the election. He was able to get you out of it. But here's the thing. You fell in it because of your alignment with one side. That's all. You started out, the Proud Boys never started out saying that they were Republicans. Never walked down that road. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. In the early days of the Proud Boys, you never even wore tactical clothing. You wore polo shirts.
Well, we started wearing tactical clothing when we started getting stabbed in the streets.
Understood.
I've been stabbed myself.
Understood. But which was, of course, political rivals being used against one another by, once again, two rich organizations that utilized you and used you and bounced you back and forth, that practically forced you to one side, and then basically almost got you destroyed in their mess. Like, why?
I think you're
to be separate from groups and build on the things that they.
Commander, here's where I think I disagree with you.
Go ahead.
Your typical Republican establishment would use us, right? Your typical liberal Democratic establishment would. When it comes to Donald Trump, he's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat, or I'd say now he's a Republican because the party has shifted. The party has shifted dramatically, radically, I'd say. And it was because of this MAGA movement. This MAGA movement is bigger than the president. These beliefs that I have now aren't because of Donald Trump. I've always had these beliefs. I had these beliefs when I worked for Ron Paul in 2006. I'm sorry?
I believe you on many of them, but I believe some of them you're being influenced by. Let me read something to you.
Go ahead.
Listen to this really quick. Now, this is going back to 2020. It's before, all the madness, right? The NAAC Legal Defense and Educational Fund filed a federal lawsuit challenging the then President Trump's executive order on combating race and sex stereotypes that prohibited speech, free speech, activities, and workplace training that address or promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here's my question to you. Here's my question. I know it's a big story. Everybody's talking about diversity and all of that. My question is simply this. Give me this from the broad point of view.
Okay.
Should a Proud Boy, who recognizes that in the workplace, in any workplace, that there is that based on race, that there is a disadvantage given to one race over another because of the power that the other race has against the other, is it the Proud Boys and yourself policy to say, in this case, in this particular case, not in all, but in this particular case, because we believe in a constitutional republic, as we should, or in this case, as we live under, should there be some policy in any way, shape, or form that does not allow one race to use its advantage, whether it be people, whether it be having had slaves in the past, whether it be whatever it is that creates this dynamic? Should there be something in place that says you cannot just use your advantage to wipe out the people on the other side? Or let me let you take it from there. That's my question to you.
I just before I answered, I want to ask you: Are you saying that you're for the DEI initiatives?
No, not at all. I'm even worse. I'm for Blacks and Latinos building on their own and doing their level best.
We spoke about this last
from the oppressive policies of white America. I believe that the whole reason we had to have DEI and the whole reason Democrats are fighting for DEI is because, once again, white people are the devil the Bible speaks of. And so they will always take an advantage, if they can, of the situation. They will always, Mariah, you having a problem or you good? We're good. All right. Or they will always take advantage of whatever opportunity is there. And it doesn't matter who they destroy or step on in the way. We've suffered hundreds, not tens, not decades, hundreds and hundreds of years of oppression just based on how another race felt. And for me, some things should, bring him back if you could, Marah. For me, some things need to be put in place so that their race doesn't do what it's done for hundreds of years, and what I believe Elon Musk is doing right now, which is use their power and their influence and their ability to oppress those that are around them. This goes on worldwide, but let's just talk about us. I believe that we need to stop that. So I'm not necessarily for or against DEI. I am for the equity until our time comes to be out of this place. But my question is, in that interim, should there be any time in this republic that blacks who have such and Latinos and others, Native Indians, that in some cases have an extreme disadvantage against those? Should there be some, like it's been many laws There's been many amendments to the Constitution. Should there be laws that say by capable judges that say this is wrong and there needs to be a rule here that does not allow this to continue? There should be. Also, should there also be that same policy when it comes to the acts being done of injustice against Blacks and Latinos in this republic? That's my question to you.
That's a lot to unpack.
Well, let me shorten it. Should there be any incident or any situation where DEI, again, I'm not necessarily for DEI, but should there be any situation where DEI should be in place? Because if it's not in place, those that have the advantage would abuse those that do not. Please.
When it comes to the system, here's where I don't fit in this box. When it comes to the system, and I'm a little bit of an anarchist. I believe that there shouldn't be any guardrails when it comes to like finding a job, finding. Wait, I could hear myself in my headphones. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. You there?
Yeah, I think you're.
Did we lose him?
I think I'm pushing. They're pushing the audio back into my headphones. I don't. It's an audio test.
Mara?
Like I hear you twice and I hear myself.
We're getting an echo now.
Okay, I'm good.
You trying to clean something up?
I'm good.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Can you hear him? Mara?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm a little bit of an anarchist when it comes to that. I don't believe in guardrails. I believe when it comes to owning a business, I believe I should be able to hire whoever I want. I believe that I will always find the best person for that job, regardless of race. And I think that it should be a free market. What we do have right now is not a free market. I will tell you that. Companies like Amazon, for example, I mean, I'm not going to get into like the whole details, but Amazon has a big advantage. But no, I don't think that there should be any DEI initiatives in any shape, way, or form when it comes to any practices, whether it's your own private, whether it's your own. And I guess this is more personal. Like last time I was on with you, you were saying like Black-owned businesses should only do business. Like you guys should build a community, and I think that's within that community. I think that's awesome. But me personally, when it comes to enforcement and the government coming in and saying, well, you need to do this, you need to have some type of quota, I absolutely am against that.
Well, then let me ask you this then, okay?
Yeah.
If that's the case, which that's fine too.
Yes.
Here's where the problem comes in. The problem comes in that Mr. White Man Joe Blow opens up a grocery store the same time I do. We both own a grocery store on both sides of the street, right?
Yes.
Okay. We both doing business. We both sell sandwiches. Somehow I've learned to make my sandwich sauce a little bit better than his. It becomes the sandwich sauce that people like, which means I start gathering business in greater numbers. His business begins to decline.
Yes.
Should he at any time, since we eliminating DEI, should he at any time be allowed to use nefarious things to destroy my business because I'm Black and he's white? Should he be able to do those things? And if he should not be able to do those things, then don't we have tens of thousands of Black people who've had businesses, who've built cities, who've done amazing things? There are 20 cities right now underwater in the United States that were built by Black people.
Commander, but
those cities were systematically destroyed by white conservatives who could not stomach the idea of Black people building their side of the city greater and bigger than theirs. Should that be stopped? Go ahead, please.
So wait, so here's the thing with some of these hypotheticals is what is the nefarious? Well, no, wait. Well, in this situation where you said that you're
well, you the sandwich shop, but you could apply that to so many.
What's this nefarious thing that this the white business across the street, what would this nefarious thing? Because I'll tell you, like, if it's like put roaches in your place, like that's illegal. You should not do that.
Maybe he sent a few white supremacists there in the middle of the night and they burned my business down.
Okay, well, that's already illegal.
Yeah,
right?
it
and
is.
They should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Okay, and you believe they should be stopped.
They should be stopped. In that obviously in that theoretical, which maybe have happened before, but I just
and with that understanding, aren't there tens of thousands of black businesses, black cities, black corporations that were either stolen or destroyed by white America, including inventions, including surgical techniques, including all types of therapy, all types of new drugs that have been created and taken away from blacks and Latinos and given to their conservative white partners so that they would gain now the advantage, and those blacks and Latinos have gone into obscurity in history, and only now with the invent of the internet and other things do we find out through history that these things took place. Shouldn't all of them be able to receive justice for what was done to them?
I think
Enrico,
I mean the thing is that you're painting the broad brush here. I think that if somebody does something illegal to harm your business or steals your intellectual property, steals your sauce, for example, like breaks into your business and steals your sauce that you had. I mean, this part I don't know because it's trademarked or copyright. I don't understand that part. But for the most part, yes, like these things you obviously need. But you also said something. You're like, well, if these people own slaves, there's not slave owners right now. Far as individuals go, as far as individuals go, like nobody owns like what the definition of like a person slaving and a person being a slave. I think that we're oppressed. I agree with you 100% with that. But when it comes to like judging people for what their ancestors did, I once you're born, I feel like that slate is clean. If you want to be a little a-hole after that, then yes.
But if you're sitting on the money that was stolen from someone else, and you're sitting on that money, and those that stole it have passed away, should you be exonerated from having to return that money? Should you be able to say, hey, my father stole it, I have it now, he's dead, it's all mine. You can't have it back, even though he stole it from you. We have insurance companies now that are multi-billion-dollar corporations that made their fortunes off of the selling of slaves. Should those slave families be able to collect the money that was stolen from them?
I'm definitely not one for reparations. That's one thing.
I'm not talking reparations. Yeah. I'm just talking individual.
Well, reparations in general, not like reparations.
It's on you saying you're for that.
I think that if a person does somebody wrong in real time, I think that they should pay a price for it. But to go back and say, well, this corporation did this. I mean, I guess specific examples of these things happening, but in general, no, I don't believe that you can go back 200 years and sue the sister corporation of
they have the records. They have the records of these corporations. They have their files. They have the manifest of the slaves. They have all the proof that they need many times over to go back. That's how they find out that these corporations actually had an interest in the slave trade. Should they, knowing and having those records, should they be able to go ahead and collect that money back?
Commander, I don't think so. I don't think that right now. Like, I don't believe in paying for the sins of our fathers or paying for the oppression of our fathers. Right? I believe, and that's why I told you that in some of these cases, I'm a little bit of an anarchist, and in some cases a new conservative, because that's what a lot of people believe in.
I recognize that you take a unique position, and so you can't be called out for every injustice and Republican program. But I think for you to not be able to see Like, and let me say this biblically, and I want to read something to you in the scriptures, but let me just say this to you biblically, that this is why biblically Egypt had to be destroyed. And this is why biblically America is walking down the road to be destroyed, because America refuses to, white America refuses to correct the wrong that was done. And that is one of the biggest wrongs, if not the biggest wrongs ever done by this empire. And it is to be they're being exonerated from it. And because they're exonerated from it, like any bad child, if they're never punished for what they did, then they'll never learn the lesson to not do that punishment again. And that's why we wake up in 2025, and like you said in your own words, we still are oppressed. And that oppression still happens today because those that know how to oppress do not fear being challenged. Donald Trump has, in essence, given liberty to police departments to continue their oppression. He joked about it in his first campaign, where he said, back in the day, you used to hit the guy on the head when you put him in the car. Like, to him, that was just a joke at a rally. To blacks and Latinos, that's been a horrible way of life. That has been whiplash inside hospitals. That have been back injuries in prisons based on that behavior. That's been assaults, extreme assaults, sometimes deaths. Long before cameras were on the scene, Black people and Latino people died from those things. But to him, it was just a joke. But my point is that kind of behavior that he is making so light of has been our oppression. And that oppression has not gone unchallenged. How can a presidential candidate joke about how comfortable it is to assault prisoners in handcuffs, knowing that blacks and Latinos have had a, amazing history of being abused by law enforcement, going all the way back to the days of slave catching. The entire police force has been created based on slave catchers. How can that be okay by yourself and those that would align themselves to the Republican Party? And why aren't you and your group able to stand up to them and challenge them on it? You know what I mean? Why is my main Roger supposed to get challenged on that? Y'all supposed to challenge Roger on that, man. You know what I'm saying?
So
go ahead, please.
I'm going to tell you, Commander, like I disagree with the premise. I believe that this new conservative movement that we have is completely different than what you're portraying here. I don't agree with you that major corporations are I believe that major corporations in the Republican Party has been an issue for a very long time. That's why we got movements like I'm sorry?
How can you deny it? Please continue.
Commander, I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. A lot of noise in the background.
We only got 30 minutes, so we won't be that much longer.
Okay. So I believe that you're.
Go ahead, take a moment. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I know we've been running all day. Both of us done had a long day. I know what it's like when you done had a long running day. You know what I mean? So go ahead.
You want me to read the scripture, sir?
No, bring us back. Bring us back. Once he comes back, we'll once he comes back, we'll Did you lose him?
No, he's still here.
Can you bring him the split screen back, or is it messing you up?
No, I can bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back, because how will we know when he comes back?
Oh, so I can see him, sir.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, I'll wait till he comes back and then I'll read the scripture on it. Just let him get that going right there. You know, man. Yeah, big shout out to can everybody else hear me?
Yes, sir.
Big shout out to Tazaliah. Good point. I'm assuming that he can't talk against Trump because he pardoned him. I mean, some things he said, but there is a loyalty that he's locked into. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I said that I said that before. There is a loyalty here because obviously there's a pardon. I remain objective, right? But there is a loyalty there that goes beyond that, and that's why I said that my tribe is very important to me, and that's why I say that I fight for that tribe, because this tribe is a big movement. It's actually, I think, the biggest political movement that we've seen in a very, very long time.
Y'all almost big as us.
I'm sorry.
I'm joking. I said y'all almost big as us. Y'all almost.
Sorry, Commander. I had lost my train of thought because I had somebody in my ear telling me something.
Long day, man. Long day.
Yeah. And another thing, I apologize. There was a little scheduling confusion in the morning. We're supposed to be on at 12.
We all run into that type of thing. I'm glad that you were eventually able to make it. I'm glad we have able to have this conversation. I'm glad everybody was still willing to come out and hear what we're talking about. I think it's extremely important now because it's going to set the record for what's going to happen over the next 3 years. We'll see where we were right and maybe where we were wrong. You know what I mean? And I think that after the election of Donald Trump certainly gave us a better insight to you. Personally, you being a Cuban, you my peoples. You got home, even though we don't agree. We done battled in the past. But the fact
I think we agree on a lot of things. I think obviously when it comes to religion and some politics, we disagree on some things, but I think we agree on a lot. And this little experiment has worked out pretty well till now. And I think that's something we agree on, but maybe disagree on how to do it. I think we have to remain vigilant, right? Because it could get a lot worse. I personally saw it get a lot worse in the 4 years of Biden. I think I was only out for about a year. And my brothers were picked up right after that. So, and some of them got to see what the system is. We were raised in the education system. That's why I agree with Musk and Trump on getting rid of the Department of Education. That we're raised in civics class. We were shown this lady with a blindfold and these two weights that are supposed to be equal, and they got to see like what the system really was when we went through trial. I even learned things that I didn't know. Our actual defense that was true, we weren't allowed to use. They suppressed evidence. They intimidated witnesses as soon as we put them on our witness list. So the system,
you got to see
I think go ahead.
You got to see what your brothers go through every day up close and personal, huh?
I got to see, again, I knew the system. I'll tell you what, when I ran for Congress back in 2020, on the front page of my website for issues was criminal justice reform.
Right.
And it's something that actually we have a meeting next week that we're going to be working on. But it is a system that I knew was oppressive. I didn't know how far it was when it came to trial, because I had never been to trial.
Right.
But what we saw there was they didn't learn how to do that with us. It's something that they've done over, like, it was very, very methodical. Right. The way that they prosecuted us and persecuted us. And another thing that's, I guess I'm looking at the bright side of things. A lot of these J6ers, because of their plight, a lot of people that weren't looking at the justice system before are able to see. I'm talking about outside of the J6 community, people just reading about it. They are able to see these horrible conditions. One of the worst prisons I was in was, Commander, I believe you're in Atlanta, are you?
No, I'm actually up on the Northeast.
Oh, okay, because I saw some advertisement there in Atlanta. One of the worst prisons I was in was in Atlanta, the United States Penitentiary in Atlanta. And then some of the most oppressive correctional officers there, and here's when we're talking about the whole facility is ran by African Americans, right? And there's a level there, there's a culture there that's been made from this prison system in there. I literally saw a man 2 cells from me. He passed away after he had a heart attack after one of the counts because they would never pass by. And I was banging on the door because I knew this guy, something was wrong with this guy. There was no medical button. And they pulled this guy out, and he was as stiff as a board when they pulled him out 4 hours later. He's been dead for 4 hours. Some of the worst conditions I've seen came from United States Penitentiary, Atlanta, and what we call the DC Gulag, which is the DC jail. And that was it was pretty bad. I went to 40 different prisons. I was put on diesel therapy almost the entire time. I was either in solitary confinement or I was being moved in a paddy wagon with box cuffs. So
that was pretty rough. But do you recognize that is what Blacks and Latinos predominantly go through every day in this empire?
I think everybody in that system goes through that at some point. And I think that I went through it. I think I went through it harder than most people have to go through in the prison system.
They were out to get you.
Yeah.
But now examining that situation, knowing that we are not in control of that situation, meaning Blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, we make up the majority of the prisoners and the least amount of those in charge and in control. Can't you see how we as a people would need to pull away from those that are in control to at least, at minimal, fix the conditions of our people in the situation that we're in this republic?
I think we need to change the system, period. And I think that I'm sorry?
You're a man on the right track, I was saying. Go ahead.
I think that the system needs to be, a lot of these agencies need to be brought down completely and rebuilt from the ground up, and some of them should not exist to begin with.
But wait a minute, real quick now. I agree with you. It seems like Donald Trump and Elon Musk are tearing down the agencies that in many cases protect those very Black people, or at least perceived to protect
which agency?
Black people.
Which agency?
Department of Education is one of them.
The Department of Education protects African Americans?
Absolutely. When African Americans are incarcerated, it's the Department of Education that works through the Department of Corrections to at least give a small percentage of those Blacks and Latinos an opportunity to become educated in anything.
Commander, I believe it's the communities that should be focusing on education. I don't think that the federal government should ever have their dirty paws on anything that has to do with education. I believe I wholeheartedly disagree with you there. I think the Department of Education, if anything, is worse for the African American community. I think a federal agency that
wipe out the Department of Education.
I think start at you won't disagree with me here. You start at a local level. You get me? Homeschooling is a big thing now.
So then you do disagree then with Donald Trump's policies going forward in education, like wiping out critical race theory. And in other words, if we
believe that you should teach critical race theory if that's something that you want to focus on at a community level. I don't think that the government should ever focus on not just critical race theory, but I think that the government should get their hands off educating our kids, period. I think education starts at home. And I believe that the system of mass education in a big classroom with 50 students, it's never meant to work that way. Our education system was never meant to work that way. I think individual teaching, I think we need to encourage more people to homeschool their kids. I think that we need more homeschool programs also, and within our communities, because I think that's what works. But having a federal agency dictate what we teach our kids is something that I will never be okay with. And I think that they should that goes forth. So if you have any other government agencies that you think that are protecting African Americans, I could push back on at a federal level. I could push back on probably every single one, because I don't think, not only for African Americans, I think for Americans in general, I think federal agencies.
I think the DOJ's policy of tracking white supremacists inside police departments is a very good attempt at stopping what's going on. And
here's where I disagree
of their work. Go ahead.
Now, I'm going to tell you why I disagree. Because when you build a cage,
right,
and it's done with them, it comes for you. So if we start putting, and I think both of something that we both have in common is that both of our organizations are labeled a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Right.
So the problem with targeting those individuals, and it's not because I disagree with we should with those things. I disagree because the problem is that we're building a system that could turn on us the moment that we don't agree, because then what happens? Well, somebody's going to complain, well, it shouldn't just be the white supremacist, it should be the black supremacist, right? And then they start, and then let's expand. And then, well, what's considered a hate group? Well, anybody who disagrees with us is a hate group.
Well, you're proving my point. You're proving my point that these things would be right if
the government didn't have their hands in it. Yes.
If the corruption of white America didn't have their hands in it, then it would go along just fine. I think that the fact that the Department of Justice tracks these things, they track them, the convictions.
How about we just stop tracking people?
Well, we could if white people could play by the rules. Like why would we want to stop tracking white police officers murdering blacks and Latinos in car stops across this country?
Listen, I disagree with here's a police involved shooting that happened recently.
Give me a better option. Give me
look.
Now, wait a minute. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are talking about Eric Chauvin, the ex-police officer.
Derek Chauvin.
Chauvin that was accused of killing George Floyd. Now they want to let him out based on the belief that that was not how he murdered him. Even though he had his neck on him for that excessive amount of time, they want to let him free. My point is, if the rules were right, then there would be no harm in tracking them because the numbers would be so low. But give me another alternative other than black people killing police officers for trying to murder them. Give me another alternative on how you can push back on what basically is an extermination run amok across the United States.
I think community policing should be a thing. I think the people that police their communities should live in those communities and not live outside of those communities.
So black people should police their own community.
I believe, I go back. I believe that if the district, wherever the police are, I think I'll give you an example. Here we have right down the block, I have 2 police cars sitting here, and they've been police officers for a very long time. Both of them are Broward sheriffs. This isn't Broward County. Right. They don't live in Broward County. They don't know what. I don't know if they know what's going on in Broward County because they live here. That's about 40 minutes away. I believe that those police officers that are on patrol in those specific neighborhoods should be inside those neighborhoods knowing what's going on.
And you know what? That's a good idea, Enrique. I got a lot of boys that could use a badge right now to police our neighborhoods. Oh, it would be wonderful.
I'm all for it. I think that giving more power to a government that's run amok, and we both agree on it, I think is dangerous. And I also believe that making lists of people and targeting based on their ideology is also dangerous because it could backfire, and it has backfired. Let's be honest, it has backfired. It's not like we're waiting for it to happen. It's currently happening now. So, like, what if here's a perfect example. What if they needed to outsource finding hate groups, and they suddenly hire the Southern Poverty Law Center to be the outsourcing. Here's where corporations and governments being put together don't mix. They'll use the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a racket in itself. All they need to do is all they're trying to do is raise money, and they need to find new hate groups. So they just keep creating hate groups because people have a certain set of ideology, right? I think you can disagree with somebody's policy and not want them on a list.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I would disagree with using another racist, political group to establish other government agencies, but I think that that's exactly what we are dealing with right now. I think Elon Musk's policies and Donald Trump's policies are going to be based on what they and their rich conservatives have in mind. They look like they're going to dismantle the country and turn it, privatize the entire country.
I think they're going to dismantle the government and they're going to rebuild it. But
what will that look like when they rebuild it? What would a South African Nazi saluting non-American, what would his idea of a new government look like to blacks and Latinos? To say that it would be better than that was in South Africa in the past is extremely naive, especially seeing that Donald Trump, with his mass deportation, was willing to offer sanctuary to South African, white South Africans that wanted to come to America. Like, come on, Enrique, you got.
I'll tell you what. I'm when it comes to deportations, I'm for putting Black Americans before illegals 10 times out of 10. And when it comes to the characterization of Musk, I don't think it's accurate. When it comes to what he's doing with the Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE, I think is something that's needed in the government, regardless of what anybody thinks of his ideology. I think he's doing great things. I think he's somebody.
Do you believe he could do it better? Do you believe the slash and burn technique to poor and hardworking blacks and Latinos? Do you think that is?
I mean, I don't think he's focused on blacks and Latinos as he's targeting, but I do believe he does things better than anybody else. I mean, you're looking at somebody that created.
He
thought about a payment system, a digital payment system that we did today. He created
by the government.
He got electric cars and he made them cool. He made a private space company.
Nice. Here's the thing. That's in his company. That's in his company. Does he have the right to get in the government and totally destroy working people's lives without even really knowing
federal government people's lives? I think that they should be fired. Honestly, I think that they should be fired.
Even not even knowing the impact of their lives after that, it doesn't. None of that.
I share no sympathy whatsoever with any federal worker.
Do you believe it was their fault? It's their fault if they get fired on a Tuesday by Elon Musk
they should have been fired on a Monday.
You believe without any pre-notice, without any examination of their work ethic, without any examination of the necessity of their position, you feel that he should be
shrinking the government will never look pretty, and firings are necessary. The shrinking of these organizations need to be done.
The way he's going about it, is that right?
I don't think he's doing enough.
And let me tell you something. Let me read. I want to read. I've been saying I want to read this before you go. Let me tell you something. Remember one thing that God said: whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. The way that this is being done and the families that he is destroying is he had better hope that the Lord does not do the same to him, because
I'm not for him firing private citizens unless it's in his own company. But when he's firing federal workers, I am 100% behind that.
Federal workers are human beings. Nobody struggles more than blacks and Latinos in today's society.
I'm not talking about blacks or Latinos. I'm talking about federal workers.
That's not your thing. I understand that.
No, it's not about not being my thing. I don't see color when it comes to federal workers, period.
Let me tell you something. Many blacks and Latinos could not even get a job unless it was the government from the 60s on. They got jobs in the government simply because no private corporation wanted to have them because they were black and Latino. The government had rules that allowed many of our people to get jobs. I'm not saying that the government doesn't need to be slashed and cut in certain ways, but I'm saying some.
So how do we slash and cut government if we're not firing the government, which is the biggest? It's the biggest expenditure that we have when it comes to federal.
But if you care about people more than your bottom line, if you run a government and you believe it was run wrong for 5 decades, 6 decades, and now it's time to. For economic purposes or whatever, it's time to make that correction. That's fine. But to make that correction, you understand, with the cold-hearted idea.
You have to be cold-hearted.
I don't think you do. I think the white man's philosophy of being cold-hearted for, anything that has to be done is ridiculous. That's Donald Trump's policy.
Let me tell you a little bit about D.C. because I think that's where most of these firings are happening.
And I spent years in D.C. I built camps all around D.C., Baltimore, Virginia. I spent many years down D.C. My point, let me just make this one point.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
My point is this, that that way of life is the way of life of rich men. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the rest, when their bottom line is challenged or what they want to accomplish is challenged, they just believe in firing and burning it down. Many of his own government people were brutally fired, embarrassingly fired, humiliated, you understand, with these firings. None of that has ever been necessary to run a government. That's necessary for criminals when they in the government. That's not necessary for people that go to work every day and make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. All of a sudden, this has to be done in such a brutal way. Does it really have to be done in a brutal way, or is this being done so that Donald Trump can look good, so that Elon Musk can look like, they're making the government efficient? I guarantee you, here's my prophecy for you. I guarantee you that what they're doing is going to destroy the economy faster than any other president has done before since the great.
That's the same thing when they said with Milei in Argentina. They said that he's firing too many government workers. Look at Argentina now. Right now, what we're seeing in Argentina now. I'm sorry?
Is Argentina in great shape right now?
Argentina is in way better shape than it was before Milei came in and slashed it with a chainsaw. I think that, again, it does have to be brutal. It does have to be, it has to be a sledgehammer, because the cancer that is the federal government, as we know it today, we cannot use a scalpel. We need to destroy some of these agencies. And like I said, we need to destroy these agencies and rebuild them from the ground up. And I think a lot of these agencies should never have existed in the first place. And like here, look, we're gonna give you the prime example of oppression. The Federal Bureau of Investigation that was started by Hoover, okay, is one of the most oppressive government agencies ever created. So I disagree. I wouldn't bat an eye if every FBI agent were fired tomorrow. I'd probably pop a cork of champagne. I don't even drink. I'd pop a cork on a champagne bottle and drink the whole thing. Because what we're seeing here, and if we continue in this and we think that we can slash a little bit here and scalpel cut here and there, is we're going to fall into the same problem that we've had. If we rebuild these agencies and make them better, okay, I think that no matter what you build after you destroy them is going to be better than what we have now.
I totally disagree with you, Enrique. I want to read something to you.
Go ahead.
I think that those things can be done, but the brutality that we have suffered as a people for so long we don't deserve to do this in this way just because we believe it's going to be better. But here's the thing. What's great about what we do all the time is we look at it, and then we can come back and look at it later. By the next time we get together, have a show, we will know whether or not this worked or whether or not it didn't work. Here's my take. You gave me your take.
If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong.
Of course, we're honest men. Here's my take. I believe that we're watching the rise of the Nazi Party. I believe that it will become far more evident as it begins to unfold. I believe that it will inadvertently destroy the economy because the entire, not just the United States policy, but the world policies, I believe that they believe are going to be innovative and, great, are actually detrimental to the country. And on top of that, I believe that groups like yourself and other groups must wake up to what they're being used by. Let me read one scripture before I let you go, okay? Give it to me, Murad. Tell them where you at. No, James 2:2. Check this out, Enrique.
It's the book of James, chapter 2, verse 2.
Here's what, Enrique, by the way, do you believe in God at all?
Yes, I am a believer. I am a follower of Jesus Christ, and He is my Lord and Savior.
Okay, beautiful. Let's go to the book of James, 2nd chapter, 2nd verse, 2-5, and I'm gonna let us wrap up. Go ahead.
The book of James, chapter 2, verse 2. For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and ye have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and say unto him, sit thou here in a good place.
This is the nature of poor people. Poor people see a wealthy man or a wealthy situation, they give more grace to that wealthy situation than the other. I hope this is not something that's part of the Proud Boys. Go ahead. Now that you've been helped by a rich man, first put into position by rich men, now helped by a rich man, you are in a bad ping pong situation that I hope that you and the Proud Boys can wake up from.
We'll agree to disagree on that.
We'll disagree, and that'll change. Let me read a little bit more down, and we'll go from there. All right.
And say unto him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor man, stand thou here, or sit under my footstool. Are ye not then partial in yourselves?
Right.
And are become judges of evil thoughts?
Become judges of evil thoughts, because now those that have it, that give it to you, we become judges of those thoughts. We love superstars. We love the wealthy. We love all the glitz and glitter. And we often get used by, and you and your organization, especially you, brother. You a brother. You know what I mean? You a brother. I don't know how you got over the top of them Proud Boys by setting up that foundation. Boy, I would be turning them over. But anyway, go ahead. Let me finish this.
Verse 5. Hearken, my beloved brethren. Have not God chosen the poor of this world?
Have not the Lord chosen the poor of the world? You are the valuable one. You are the one that they want to use. All of us that are here on the bottom of this empire. Go ahead,
Again, I agree to disagree.
I totally understand. Go ahead.
Rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom which ye have promised to them that love him.
We're the heirs of that kingdom. That kingdom is coming to us. Much as you might love the conservative things that's being done and Elon Musk cutting and slashing, we're heirs to the kingdom of heaven, not them. You know what I mean? That's why they do things in the cruel manner that they do. But we are heirs to this kingdom. They're not going to be the rulers in the future. I believe part of the reason they've come down on Latinos is Latinos' unmatched ability to procreate. Latinos have been the best on the planet at procreating and growing our people. And as a result, it has threatened the status quo of racist white America. And they want to see it stop, but it will never, ever, ever be stopped. You understand? It'll never, ever be stopped. You know what I mean? Mexico, Argentina, Venezuela, and all the brothers in Central and South America, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, all of them.
I mean, you got all of those, like all the accents locked down right there.
I grew up in New York where they all at, and they have always been some of the most amazing people on the face of this earth. As you know, New York City has every type of ethnic group on the planet. Yeah. And living in New York City will give anybody a good sense of how certain ethnicities operate. And there has never been another ethnic group that has been more kind and loving to blacks than our Latino brothers. You know, we lived together, we suffered together, we ate together, we survived together, we cried together, and we celebrated together. And they never had to do that. They never had to be that way. I was fortunate to not live on the West Coast, where it's a little more diverse, but on the East Coast, the Latinos, we know, are heirs to that throne. Let me finish this right quick. I don't want to keep you longer than I have to. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sixth verse. Give me the sixth verse.
Verse 6. Khan, verse 6. But ye have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you?
We've despised the poor, but do not rich men oppress you? Before this time, this stint in prison for you and the Proud Boys, I don't think you had a full grasp of what blacks and Latinos have been suffering, but I think now you do. And being a man of faith, hopefully you'll go back to the scriptures and remember this, that the Lord said, do not rich men use you. Go ahead. Is more in 6?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, finish it.
And draw you before the judgment seat.
And draw you before judgment seat. Like, you are biblical prophecy, Enrique. I don't know what the Lord got planned for you, brother, but you are in biblical prophecy. Like, you done fulfilled an actual scripture in the Bible. Go ahead, I'll finish it so I can give him back the floor.
Do not they blaspheme that worthy name by which ye are called?
Right. They blaspheme that worthy name by which you are called. The president of the United States has slandered the Latino community and in many cases the black community as well. And I hope that our people can wake up and learn to change that, man. Enrique, let me ask you a question if I could. So,
of course.
Did all of the Proud Boys get pardoned, or are some still incarcerated?
So no, actually, there's only out of 1,600 capital defendants that were pardoned, there's only 3 that are still in prison because when they kicked down their door, they found what they considered illegal firearms, which are never illegal. So we're fighting for them to get. Also, not everybody got a pardon. I think there's a pattern. I think everybody that was charged with sedition got a commutation of sentence, and I think pardons are coming soon. I was the only person that was convicted of sedition that did get a pardon. I think that also has to do with the fact of one thing, 2 things. Number one, I think God was on my side.
Could it be because rich men were trying to use you? Could it have been that?
No, I think it has to do with my beautiful mother. My beautiful mother kept my name in the news the entire time that I was there. And that's why I put family up there at the top of that pedestal next to right under God. And I think that it was pretty obvious that I wasn't there. That was also a factor. But I think just at the end, I think, God had mercy on me.
Well, Enrique, at least you still got your spirit and believe in the Father above. You know what I'm saying? Amen. Which we as a people never give up, man. But listen, I want to thank you, man, for coming through. You know what I mean, and letting us grill you on these questions. Go ahead, please. Come on in.
I have one thing to say. I do a lot of interviews and podcasts, and I try to do like a variety of things because I don't like people asking me softball questions. Right. So I do like a lot of liberal podcasts here and there. Obviously, you and your people aren't. It's not a political thing for you. It's like it's a belief system and it's a movement. Sure. And I like to thank you because we've been together and you've been very respectful every time. You've been a great host. I hope to actually have you on my podcast.
Yeah, I heard that's was the plan. Yeah, that'll be.
And then also your viewers too, because I could see the comments on the right, are actually very respectful. They ask hard questions and they're big supporters of yours.
and they racist, so they love you.
yeah. That's probably true too. Reading some of those comments, we don't always have to disagree, but having these conversations are healthy.
Sure.
Having these conversations are educate people on how they feel about us. I remember in that same clip that I saw from earlier in the morning, somebody asked you about the white supremacist Proud Boys, and you said, let's hold off and let's see, what their actual views are. So I appreciate that. And whatever, again, like I really think that if people don't like the Proud Boys, at least try and see what we're about. And then if you still don't like us at that point, there's nothing I can do.
Right. It's a fair.
But at least like when somebody comes at me, I prefer that they come at me and be like, well, this is the reason I dislike your organization. Right. And I can never be mad at that. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the viewers. Some of my viewers are in here too, so I appreciate them. And I hope to have you on the podcast at some point.
Yeah, man, let's do that. You're in Florida, right? Miami.
I'm in Miami.
I think I'm going to Florida recent. If you want online, that I might even be in person.
Yeah, let's do that. That's great. I'd enjoy that.
Florida. So we'll see what could be done. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you, Commander.
Hey, I appreciate you, Enrique, man. And congratulations again, man. And congratulations to your family for getting out of the cages and being home. You know what I mean? And I'm happy to hear that you've taken a new interest in those that are suffering, you know what I mean, incarcerated in prison. I heard you earlier mention that you started a new initiative and you've already started having meetings about it. I think it's going to benefit us greatly. I think also, too, we have an extremely extensive prison program head by Captain Zakar, which is, he's been a stalwart in this work for many years. If you ever, want to reach out and you work with him to get into prisons, some of the things you do, he's, we got chapels and all that in the prisons. We got great communication in there. And, we would love to, help you out,
that would be great.
Non-white Proud Boy.
All right.
Hey, man, you've been the best, man. I appreciate
Thank
you.
You. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Had a good time.
All right. Good night. You pull the promo, or do you want me to go on? You, huh? Yeah, I could do a little outro. We still on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, everybody. You heard it. That was the interview with the Proud Boys. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to everybody that bigged us up on the whole mission. We're gonna go on his podcast, hopefully down in Florida. I'll let y'all know if that happens. You know what I'm saying? And what goes on with that. But here's a takeaway for us. Now we get to see that, our teachings in the truth by the grace and mercy of the Lord, we know how much it has educated us. I'm sure everybody on our side was able to see how he was not, he got a ways to go before his naivety gets right and he doesn't, he's not fooled by these rich organizations and political organizations. And then he can get down to the real work, which is working on our brothers and sisters. So many brothers and sisters in the tribe of Manasseh. He, by the way, for those of you that may not know, he's from the tribe of Manasseh. The Cuban brothers and sisters, they're struggling down there. Poverty is strong. Lights going out, rolling blackouts, all of that. They could use help. The ones on this side, there's a lot on this side that are against the communist government. But once again, none of these governments and these political groups should matter to us because we've been slaves for 400 years. We got to get our 12 tribes out of the slave quarters and get us where we need to be. Let me read one scripture for y'all before I let everybody go, if y'all don't mind, since y'all hung so well, and I appreciate that. You understand? Big shout out to everybody. General Muhammad, of course, big shout out to him. Big shout out to Mashak Mayan. Big shout out to Kahan Yard. Big shout out to Napataza. And of course, big shout out to Marah up in the building. You know what I mean? Keeping us working, you know what I mean, day and night. Marah really got it on this week. I mean, today, both times had to come back because we got postponed and I ran a bit earlier. So definitely big shout out to all of them for that. But when we leave out, we'll play the promos. But I do want to read one thing if I could. Barack, if you could you get me Revelation 6 and 11 on down? And for those that wanted to follow up, a big shout out to General I.S.U.P.K as well. Set us up with a lot going into this. Big shout out to Halbar and Kazak Ahmad and Halbar. Big shout out to them for really working these stories and working all the things that gave me the whole pathra of what Donald Trump did. I wasn't able to get to as much as I wanted to, but I got to quite a bit of it, man. So we're going to look forward to getting on their platform and telling them how we see the world through the grace and mercy of the Lord. So Revelation 6 and 11, I'll try to get into this and get ready to wrap it up. Big shout out to all the generals, man, holding it down, you know what I mean, for so many years, doing everything the right way, man. They deserve the honor and respect that is due them for so much hard work. And the same goes for the captains, officers, troopers, and definitely for the sisters, man. All right, go ahead and read it for me, out.
Revelation chapter 6, verse 11.
If y'all want me to take a couple of questions, I'll take them. Just a couple if it comes up, so we don't keep everybody. We've been up in here a little over 2 hours. I don't want to just burn everybody out, but let me get this scripture. Go ahead, Ak.
Revelation chapter 6, verse 11. And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them.
Wait, you got Revelation 6 and 11?
Yes, sir.
Please read on.
And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season unto their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled.
Right. That's the time we've been in. But here's the time coming up. That 6th seal is about to be open. 12th verse. Go ahead, Marah.
And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black.
Right, a great earthquake. War broke out in this earth. The sun became black, meaning all wisdom left this earth. All knowledge left out of here. Go ahead.
Black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon become as blood.
Right, meaning you no longer had any knowledge and wisdom. The wisdom of this world became blood, meaning it became a way to kill each other. You know what I mean? The light that used to be in the world became dark as sackcloth. Come on.
Verse 13. And the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs.
That's right. Go ahead.
When she is
meaning the empires, the rulers of these empires fell at an untimely manner, meaning fell when you never believed they would fall. You would never believe the wars that's about to break out in this empire. They getting ready to break out all over the place. Go ahead.
When she is shaken of a mighty wind.
Go ahead.
And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and
when it says the heaven departed as a scroll, meaning all the rulership, all the heavenly places that they live on, that you and I don't live on, all of it rolled up like a scroll. Like it went away, like if it was a biblical prophecy where you was able to see this has got to be the Lord. I'm gonna try to go through it. I'm rushing a little, but I'll slow down as we go through it. Go ahead, Marah. What verse you in?
Verse 14.
Verse 14, fam. We're going to 16 and we done. Go ahead.
And every mountain and island were moved out of their places.
Right. Every mountain and island, meaning the smaller governments and the smaller powers, were moved out of their place. Little countries, island countries, all of them are going to fall as we get to the end. Go ahead.
And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains.
When this nuclear war breaks out across this world, brother, they're going to hide themselves in the dens of the rocks. They're going to hide themselves in underground bunkers and tunnels and bomb shelters. It's going to be full out war with government to government on this earth. They think they're going to build a new government that's going to be better and it's going to be wonderful and all that. They can forget about it. It's going to all be destroyed. Go ahead, Ak.
Verse 16. And said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne.
Right. Okay, they said, fall on us, man. Hide us from who sitteth on the throne. Christ is going to sit on that throne. And they're going to know that this is Christ's return. And they're going to go into them bunkers and try to hide so that Christ doesn't dig them out. They're going to try to live underground at this time. Because Ahmad had a question. He said, General, if I may, what do you realistically see being the fate of Enrique if he continues on his current path? It's going to be a bad fate because he's aligning himself, even though he says he's has his own thoughts on it and his own positions in it. He's aligned himself with conservative Edomites, many of which are secret white supremacists, and whose views are totally against his people's specific needs. That's why he was comfortable with people in the government being fired, the deportation of Latinos in the manner that is being done, because he's not aligned with his tribe so much as he believes his tribe to be that which is of the Proud Boys, which we, of course, believe to be really a tribe of Edomites' way of thinking, which he's aligned with. So on that same path, he'll continue to be used by rich white men, and rich white men will use them and destroy them. And hopefully he sees better. Of course, we care about every brother and sister as much as we can, because you never know. We know that Paul came into the truth being a total enemy to Christ. So we don't know, and Enrique is not a total enemy to us. And so you never know who the Lord will bring out of one group and into another, and all that. Like all that time in jail and all of that stress that him and his family only went through because he's in an arena where both sides are rich people that seek to use as many people as they can. They would have used the I.S.U.P.K many years ago. They tried to use us many years. They tried to shape us into more of a non-racial group and into a group that would be willing to get in that political arena with them. Then when they saw that we would not, they became angry and against us. That's one of the reasons Black Lives Matter was very angry with us, because we wouldn't align with those political things, because many of them believe those things is how you move forward, when that is not how we move forward. We move forward by serving the Most High and by doing what the Lord said, because he's still in control of everything. You know what I mean? He still runs everything, and that's the mindset we're supposed to be in. So what will happen to him? He'll just keep getting used by rich men. And whatever his fate is, it'll be that by rich men. He's already in a bad position. He got arrested in D.C. recently because, of course, they're targeting him. They're targeting him and they're watching him because they look at him like a Donald Trump ally. They're looking at him in that way. And once you take a side with him, you know who else this happened to? It happened to Alex Jones. Remember, Alex Jones was rolling good. The minute he aligned himself with Roger Stone, and I want to interview Roger Stone as well. The minute he aligns himself with Roger Stone, and the minute he aligned himself with Donald Trump, they began to destroy Alex Jones' whole platform. He had been saying conspiracies for many years, but the minute he aligned himself with them, they went after him cold-blooded and destroyed his whole InfoWars operation. And for what? Because you align. It's one thing if they come to destroy you because you speaking up for the Most High. But if they destroy you because you align yourself with their rivals, then what can you say? You decided to jump into the political arena on one side or another, and that's what happens. That's what's beautiful about the U.P.K. They say we can't say nothing because we don't vote. Yes, we can say something. We speaking against both sides. You know what I mean? Like what the Democrats were going to do this round with Wall Street and abortions and transgenderism and everything else was going to be an attack on us like you never seen before. But so is the opposite on the other side of the table, also an attack on us. That's why the Most High is everything. That's why the Most High is everything and is what we should cleave on to as we go into these dark days and dark hours. They're going to be temptations. They're going to try to suck us in. Many times they try to get us in, especially with money. And none of it worked before. And as long as I'm sitting in this seat, and I'm sure the brothers that's coming after me feel the same way, we will not be used by these groups in any way, shape, or form. We're going to go on and serve the Lord and believe in these scriptures and hold these high holy days and raise children in that manner and feed the poor and deliver the fatherless and build the nation of Israel and serve Yahushua until he cracks that damn sky and comes into the zone. And then we're going to live in that kingdom of heaven forever and ever and ever. All right, let me read on to that answers, because somebody else had another question up here a little further. See if I can catch it. You know, man. Right above Kazak. You know, man. Okay, big shout out to you. Give me back what you stole. That was a hell of a comment, brother, and I appreciate them words. You know what I mean? Was a strong blessing. Let me finish these and let y'all get up out of here. We've been at it a long time. Even though it's Saturday night, we're gonna be trying to do something every Saturday at around noon, I believe it is. We're still not sure of locking the time down, but we're gonna try to do something at least every Saturday. You know what I mean? To try to jump in on it. Go ahead, Marab. Finish up. We'll get ready to roll up out of here, man. Thank everybody for coming through, man, supporting the truth. Go ahead,
Khan. And from the wrath of the Lamb.
Go ahead.
That was the end of 16.
That was the end of 16?
Khan.
All right. With that, man, again, big shout out to Marab holding us down. He going to run the promos for the Passover. Y'all take care, man. Everybody hold it down. Let's get up out of here. I think the Hebrew Academy might be canceled for tomorrow. If it is, then we won't be jumping in on class. I got to double check with Cap Makad Ryan to make sure that is the case. I believe he's out of town. Y'all take care, fam. Tawada again for joining us. See you next time. Shalom.
Shalom, Israel. I.S.U.P.K presents the Lord's 56th annual Passover going down right here in Atlanta, Georgia. We got a whole bunch of events lined up for y'all, including the annual lamb slaughter. You already know. Then it's the Hebrew Academy trial. Oh boy. Next we got the children's party. Then you know we got Gen.Yahanna scripture breakdown class and the Hebrew Academy graduation. The Lord's 56th annual Passover. Pay your Passover fee. It's only $200 to get all these exclusive events. Real black culture. The generals in attendance and the stage is set. It's going down. April the 12th in Atlanta, Georgia. This event is only for the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indigenous people. We got a week full of events from April the 9th and the 13th. But remember, you got to pay that Passover fee. It's only $200 to get every event exclusively. Here's the itinerary for the Lord's 56th annual Passover. April the 9th is the annual lamb slaughter. April the 10th is the kids party. At 7 p.m. later that night, Gen.Yahanna scripture breakdown class. April the 11th, the Hebrew Academy graduation. Later that night at 8 p.m. is the all-black party. April the 12th is the Lord's 56th annual Passover. April the 13th is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. $200, 17 years or older, pay your Passover fee. See you in Atlanta, Israel. Shalom.